When you have an unbalanced Aries energy, because like I said, the opposite is Libra, you also have an unbalanced Libra energy. And so this can come out as not being able to say no. This can at times make you feel like you're not an Aries. Since like I said, the opposite sign of Aries is Libra. And it's interesting because if you look at all the fire signs, all the opposite sign of fire signs are air signs. So it's like they trigger each other. I believe at times we can inherit some traits from the opposite sign. Libra has a hard time setting healthy inner boundaries and outer boundaries. When there isn't a balance as well as those boundaries being healthy, you start looking for approval or like your approval and like the love for yourself comes from external factors. So look to where Libra is in your chart. Libra is ruled by Venus, so look to Venus to dive in further. If your house is empty, this doesn't mean you're safe. The same thing I said with the Aries energy. Look to where the area of life is coming out for you in, like what house number it's in, and that's the area of life it's going to be for you. Let's dive into careers. Aries needs a career that is mentally and physically stimulating. If your job is mundane or something that doesn't mentally stimulate you, since the opposite sign of you is air signs and that's mentalness, you have to find that stimulation elsewhere or you will burn out. This energy can also come out as chaotic in relationships. Looking to start a fight out of boredom is an example. So like you don't have the stimulation at your job, you're not creating that for yourself. So in your relationships, even if it's like family or even if it's like just with your children, you start looking to fight over little things. To you, this really pissed you off. To you, this is like a big problem. But later on, you realize like, oh shit, I overreacted. And that overreactiveness is like your overload from you not being stimulated. So you're creating that stimulation anywhere else and you're not realizing it. And sometimes that's a pattern that shows up in your romantic relationships. Aries actually acts a lot like an air sign because of this, because it's so fast and impulsive that it gets distracted easily. That's why you might get bored of a job in like record time or feel an itch to leave a relationship. The moment that like the sparks fade, because you know how like in a relationship, when it first starts, you have like those 3 months, and those 3 months are like bliss or whatever. It's like the best time, like everything's going happy and stuff. And then after those 3 months is when you actually have to put in the work to maintain the relationship, to maintain love, because it's not going to be like an automatic drug that you're feeding yourself. So after those 3 months, you usually get bored. You're always looking for the next surge of life. This can be amplified if, for example, you have Mars in an air sign. Air signs are Libra, Aquarius, or Gemini, which are also opposites of fire signs, as Mars is ruled by Aries. And air amplifies Aries. So that's why it's important for you to dive into that Libra placement if you don't have other air signs, because that could be magnifying your fire. So picture like a hot air balloon. Side note, if you have your Mars in Libra or Taurus, your anger can make you black out. Really controlling yourself when emotions is very important to avoid these memory loss moments. Let's talk about the symbolism. You seen the glyph, a circle with an arrow pointing to the upper right. That represents the shield and spear of the god of the war. But we also see it as the horns of the ram. Fun fact, in ancient times, the sign was actually represented by a farmhand. But over thousands of years, it evolved into the ram that we know today. Aries is literally Latin for ram. And a quick history note, don't confuse Aries with Ars, the Greek god of war. They share similar spirit, but they are not the same thing. Aries is about the spark of existence. It's about taking action, but the real mastery of this sign, it's learning to pause before you leap, before you make a decision, before choosing how you're going to feel, before choosing how you're going to act. Where does Aries sit in your chart? Do you have a heavy Mars influence? Let me know in the comments. As the planets move, stay curious, stay aware, and keep your eyes on the skies, my friends. Until next time, Astro Friends.